Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Giggle and Grow here with Morgan.
And Courtney, we're so excited to be back.
We are so happy to be back for episode, is it 28 now?
I think it's 29.
29. It is 29. You're right. Oh my gosh.
We're almost at
Guys,
the big 30.
I didn't think we were going to make it to 20. I mean, we kept saying we were going to get to 21, and that was our big goal. And now we're almost to 30. So that is huge for us. But guys, we got a ton of snow here out in Colorado last night. I mean, almost a foot of snow, I think. It was a lot. I did not think we were getting any snow. I actually was driving home from work yesterday and it kind of started to sprinkle. And I was like, it's Colorado. It'll fly by and we aren't going to get that much. But it just kept pouring.
Right. And today it's like what? The sun is out and it's like 35, 40 degrees.
No, it's been like negatives. I was going to work at 5:15 the other morning and it was like -2 outside, which is unusual for Colorado. It gets cold, but not like negatives like Iowa weather.
What's funny is my hairdresser, she was talking about how she was going to go to Wyoming, I think it was. And she was like, yeah, I checked the weather and it was -21. And I was like, -21? I just couldn't even fathom it because 16 and 10 degrees to me is enough. But -21, that is insane.
Imagine being on the mountains, ski bunnying down in -20-degree weather. That wouldn't be too fun.
That's crazy.
Oh my gosh. Well, with all this snow, Courtney, I mean, I'm kind of going back to my childhood days here. What was something back in the day that got you excited about a good snow day?
Oh my gosh, I have a really funny story about when I was younger and it was a big snow day back in Kentucky. So that was a big deal. It didn't really snow in Kentucky that much. And so all of our friends would go sledding on this golf course and we built a little ramp over this creek area. And I tried to jump a creek when I was about 10 years old. I was in all of my snow gear and I go off the ramp and I literally just fall directly into the creek. And I had to get up and walk home while I was soaking wet from this creek. It was freezing cold. And of course, there were a lot of guys that I grew up with. So if the guys can do it, and they didn't even do it, they were the ones that tempted me to do it, of course. And yeah, I fell in and then had to walk all the way home wet. And I don't know if I got sick after that, but I could imagine that I got sick. So,
The confidence that we have when we're younger, I wish we always had that.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. No, I'm like thinking back to my days now. I will never forget this memory. And it was back in elementary school when we had a snow day, but the snow day turned into a week-long winter break. It was just negative degrees, super snowy, like couldn't get outside. I remember having a cousin actually over at my house during that time, and we literally just binge watched movies the entire day. He was kind of like my babysitter at the time. So that was something I remember indefinitely. Like I think that made me fall in love with snow days. I wanted them more often after that. But I also remember just bundling up, going out in the snow. I don't know why. Maybe it was because I lived in like a really small town. All the neighbor kids would run out, but it would always be at dark time, and probably because at 5 p.m. it was dark outside. But that was my favorite time to go out and play in the snow. It felt like no one could see me. We'd play like hide and seek. It was like the snow
That's
would hit us.
crazy.
It
So you
was fun.
really liked the cold, it sounds like.
I did. I'm someone that's always cold and I hate being cold, but I did love going out and playing in the snow. We would make the most awesome snow forts and our parents would get outside and all the neighbor kids, we would have kind of competitions. Like we'd go back and forth, running up and down. We'd make toilets.
That's
We'd
so
have
funny.
bedrooms, kitchens in there. We'd even bring like our kitchen stuff from out in our house and like pretend that we were making food. It was so fun.
I don't even know if kids really, I know that the kids across the street from my house, their dad actually will pull out the four-wheeler and hatch a sled and go up and down the street with them. But I don't really see as many kids out in this day and age like I used to when I was younger because I think times have just changed. Things are just different. I think it's a very key part of my childhood is snow days.
Oh, same. I mean, even I think now the summer days too, I was playing on big dirt piles. My parents would have to drag me in from the park to come inside and eat dinner. I loved being outside.
I grew up going to this quote unquote ditch in my neighborhood, and we would all meet at the ditch, get your homework done, go to the ditch, and play baseball and basketball. Yeah, I don't see that as much anymore.
Oh my gosh. Do you remember the game Cops and Robbers or Jailbreak? I think it was Jailbreak.
I think we played that. We made it a way to do cops and robbers on the trampoline.
Trampoline now. Oh, I remember jumping off my trampoline and I ended up like missing. We didn't have a net around there or anything, so I leg went right through the wire and I just remember screaming bloody murder. That's like, so
Well,
scary.
that's
My parents come running out. All the neighbors are running out.
that's crazy. Thinking about it being cold and back to your school days, right? And having to get up early when it was cold when I was younger was one of the worst things ever. And now that I'm older, I'm trying to get up earlier. And one of the things I really struggle with in the winter is getting up early to work out and do quite a few workouts in the morning or just get on my walking pad. And what I've found is I'm really good about getting up and doing it the first day of the week. And then I just fall off because I set myself up for success on Sunday and I'm going to do this. But what I've learned is I had this expectation that I'm going to get up early every single week. And then when I don't do it one time, I just fall off. So my goal for this week is to just try and get up early 2 days instead of just one day. I really want to build these good, healthy habits. Again, like I used to have when I was a kid, I could get up early. I still was kind of one of those rolling out of bed types of kids, but I really want to establish a healthy goal for myself of getting up early and working out because with the wedding and everything, it's so much is going on in my afternoon that I feel like I can't get those workouts in as much as I would like to. And so that is what I'm working on.
Yeah, I mean, and you kind of touched on it a little bit just back in the day and how you kind of were the person that just kind of rolled right out of bed. But would you say that now that you have been working full time, kind of have that more consistent schedule, would you consider yourself a morning person now? I know you're trying to grow better habits around that. Or is this
Yeah.
something that you're really trying to like kind of build that whole round habit?
That's a good question. I honestly don't think I'm a morning person. Naturally, my dad was always a morning person, but I will say I am more of a morning person than my fiance. So he makes me believe I'm a morning person, but I'm really not. You see all these influencers and these people that get up early and they're like, to be successful, you have to have good habits. And so I want that in my life. And I think I'm still successful, even though I don't have these early morning habits, but I do have every morning washing my face every morning, every Sunday I meal prep. And so in the morning I do have food. I don't have to worry about that. So there are some things that I have established into my morning routine that I think help me want to be a morning person or help me enjoy the morning a little bit more to whereas before I didn't have those habits established. And so I think that I struggled with enjoying the morning because it was kind of like a frenzy. Like I just rolled out of bed and I'd be like, okay, what do I got to do? This and that. And the night before, or even the Sunday, if I make my breakfast and I have breakfast for every morning, or I set my clothes out in the morning and, I then want to get up early. But the biggest thing about getting up early that I have found is if I am not in bed by 9:30 and my eyes are closed, then it's really tough for me to get up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I struggle with that too. I think I'm someone that has always said that I am a morning person as well, but I've kind of coincided that with my alarm going off in the morning. I've talked about that on here a lot too, is just trying to avoid hitting that snooze button. And it is so hard. I genuinely, like you said, I love the mornings. I have noticed that every time I do get up, I allow myself that extra 30, 40 minutes. I can kind of just be me. I really do enjoy it. It's just that alarm. It is like the worst moment of my entire day. And I cannot get past that. Like,
Yeah. You've
yeah.
talked about that a lot. Have you ever heard of the
Yeah.
hatch?
I have heard about that. I've also tried like, and I don't know if this is a similar thing. I don't think I got the hatch, but I got like the sun lamp thing that comes up in the morning. Yeah. That didn't really,
It's long.
honestly, it didn't help me as much, but I think it's, I think it was, I just, again, wasn't giving myself maybe enough time. Like it was coming up and I was still like, oh, I can still go back to sleep. It's so cozy.
Actually, I listened to Mel Robinson and she mentions one of the things that she says you should do in the morning that I actually started doing that's helpful is a countdown. So you should basically go 3, 2, 1 and get up on one. And I
Interesting.
have found that that is helpful. But the other thing is, I sometimes am like, well, I don't want to start the countdown. I'm like, don't start the countdown yet. But if you just like wake up and like open your eyes and you just go 3, 2, 1 in your head, it does help you get up and get going and start your day. And again, it's all about building habits. You don't have to be perfect.
Right. I think, like you mentioned, we do often see a lot of influencers building those healthy habits. And a lot of times it is having that really long morning to themselves, working out, having breakfast ready, XYZ. But she actually said too, yes, it's good to build those healthy habits, trial and error, see if it does work for your body, but don't be so hard on yourself if it doesn't work out. Some people's bodies just don't function well in the morning. Sometimes they do work better in the afternoon. And of course, our afternoons can get really packed full, but I think that's when we have to intuitively go in and really see, okay, how does our body feel at this time of day? What can we do to squeeze in a little 20-minute workout if we can't do a whole hour, right? Just really working around that schedule, but again, more aligning with our bodies rather than what we really expect of ourselves. And so,
Right.
yeah.
And a lot of why I'm trying to build these healthy habits is because, I have this wedding coming up and it's only 3 months away. Honestly, I've been feeling overwhelmed. I think that that's normal, but I'm also trying to find ways to deal with being overwhelmed. But what's even funnier is the closer I've gotten to the wedding, the more I've found myself actually slacking off and being like, yeah, okay, well, whatever happens, happens. Or, okay, I don't really care about this anymore, where I really cared about it at the beginning, but now we're so close. I don't really care anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and I honestly, now that I look back, I kind of felt that too. And I think a lot of that though is it's not that you don't care, it's you got a lot of those big pieces that you were so worried about at the beginning already off your shoulders. Like that is all planned. You have gotten so far in this planning process that now it's just those little intricates that just really more so make you happy. Like it's not so much about anyone else and making it a party anymore. Now it's just all the little added things that are just going to bring it all together. And those things don't take as much time as we think. It's just the only thing that holds us back or brings that overwhelming feeling is that we hold it in our minds for so long. We hold it all the way up until the day because we do want it to be so perfect. But in reality, we got to let that out of our minds. We got to look at that to-do list, see how much time we have, and know everything is going to work out and it is going to be beautiful. And again, not that you don't care. You do care. It's just you got more time than you think now.
Yeah, and it's it's almost as if the small details they still matter, but they are not as a big deal anymore because like you said, I pulled a lot of this off of my shoulders. And the other really good thing is I am very blessed that my fiance, I pretty much told him, you are planning the honeymoon. I am not dealing with that. I'm dealing with the wedding. That's enough for me. And he's very traveled. And so I feel very lucky that I get to just focus on the wedding and he is focusing on the honeymoon. I don't know if there's any other brides out there that are doing that, but I would suggest my biggest suggestion to you is give something for your fiance so he feels like he's a part of it. Obviously, I brought my fiance in at many moments and times and I needed his help. So, for example, picking the music as we walked down the aisle, he picked his song, helping pick out the plates. And I brought him along to a lot of these things, but the majority of what I did was focus on, the large planning. And I also had a wedding planner. But I think if you're going to have a wedding, put on your fiance to plan the honeymoon. I really, really suggest that. And it will help pull a lot of stress off of your shoulders. And I think that just by doing that, I am not worrying nearly as much as I would be if I was planning both a wedding and a honeymoon.
I totally agree with that. That's exactly what I did for ours. I think I told you that too before we started. I was, if Brett ever feels like he needs something to do or you just need that stress off your shoulders, I was like, push him towards the honeymoon. Because honestly, planning a vacation, we all know is pretty fun. At least for someone that loves planning, I think it's the most fun thing to do. But it does come with a lot of stress and a lot of details. And so when you are planning that huge wedding already, that is just another stressor on top. But it was really fun. Like you said, I mean, Sam and I, we had a lot of fun doing that because I was excited then about the information he brought about the honeymoon. It wasn't my mind was already overloaded with that information. He could share that fun. I could share that fun. And like you said, I allowed him to still have some moments in the wedding process, the music and all that. But it just made it more fun for the both of us. We didn't feel like we were both doing everything or trying to do it all.
And with that being said, I actually am going out of the country for the first time. So I am working on getting my passport, and that takes longer than I thought.
It wasn't too much of a pain, I think, to get my passport. It was actually after I got my name changed that I had a darn time trying to get my updated passport. But you're not there yet. Don't worry about that.
I'm going to change my name after the wedding because we want to directly go to Italy. And I am doing something really fun where I'm surprising my fiance. I've been trying to learn Italian. And right now I can just understand it. I can't really speak it nearly as much, but I can understand quite a bit. And so that's something I've been doing on the side to surprise him. Hopefully I can pull up to a restaurant and ask for a glass of wine in Italian, but who knows? We'll see.
Well, I know life can really feel like a lot sometimes, especially with all these things that we're doing. I mean, full-time jobs, doing all these extra side things that really bring us, fill our passions up, while also planning a wedding, all the yings and yangs of life. I saw this kind of quote the other day, and it was a carousel of quotes, but it kept going back to how lucky we are. Like, how lucky are we to be busy? How lucky are we to have a job that we love or these extracurriculars that we know that we enjoy? And how lucky are we to have friends that we can confide in, or how lucky are we to have family that loves us? There's so many things in life that we can be lucky for. And of course, that overwhelming sense of feeling can take over that too. But when we can bring ourselves back in and remind ourselves the luck that we have, it's not all luck. We actually build that luck in our lives, and that we can make it the most that we can, even in those feelings. I mean, I've had a really overwhelmed nervous system for quite a while now. Actually, I sent this podcast over to Courtney. I've been really trying to build up my own personal habits with listening to podcasts more so on my way to work. I was getting overwhelmed with music. To use the word overwhelmed with music is weird, but I felt like I was just struggling or putting pressure on myself to find this new music, to feel joy, to feel this certain feeling when I was going somewhere. And I was like, Morgan, you're not supposed to be stressing about music. Like, it's supposed to find you almost, right? And so let's get back into podcasts a little bit more. I heard this stat a while ago where, if you listen to podcasts on your way to work and back, so you have a 30-minute drive there, 30-minute drive back, and you did that every single day, or more so 5 days a week, you could probably have a whole semester of college signed off by the end of the year. So just to think those drives to work, if you're bringing in that self-help, self-care. I know you said, Courtney, last time how you wanted, or on our podcast with Jazzy, how you wanted to incorporate more audiobooks rather than, having us read them. So I kind of took that into stance with my podcasting, or the podcasts. And
I love that. And have you noticed anything different since doing that?
I have. I feel like I've really leaned into more of that self-care side of me a little bit more, like, more so lean into the fun side, right? Like feeling good. I just never had time to read those self-care books either. And so let's kind of bring that into just podcasts again. And it has helped a lot. I just feel like I'm leaning into myself more than I ever have. And I'm learning a lot more quicker than I thought I could. Yeah.
Sounds like what you need to hear at those times is what you're able to hear, rather than trying to maybe push it away with just this happy feeling of music. And one of the funny things is listening to songs that make you happy can actually be addictive and give you that high. So there was a study, and I can't, don't quote me on the exact study, but I do know that I learned in college that listening to your favorite song is almost like eating ice cream, your favorite flavor of ice cream. It actually triggers the same parts in your brain when you're listening to your favorite song. So it can be addictive to sit there and say, oh, I want to find, another song that's going to make me high and make me happy. And like, I think sometimes podcasts are sitting with yourself and forcing yourself to deal with things that maybe you don't want to deal with or don't want to think about, but it's not even forcing you to think about it. It's almost forcing you to change your perspective about it. And not even forcing, that's probably not the best word, but allowing you to change your perspective. And in the end, They're not always going to make you joyful and happy, but they are going to let you step away and say, here's a different perspective about my life that I can take and I can relate to. And I'm going to take it as a learning lesson, right?
Yeah. I mean, I sent this podcast over to Courtney here in the past week. It was actually Transform. Check those girls out. Sammy and Sammy, really great podcast to listen to. But they brought on a therapist about the nervous system, and she talked a lot about just how our nervous systems regulate or dysregulate. And just over time, we can go years and years and years without even realizing it. And it can dispute into different forms or different ways of connecting with others, right? And so I was listening to that podcast, and I won't share all the details on here. You guys should go listen to it yourself. But I will say it was something that did force me to really lean in, and I cried. I mean, multiple times throughout that podcast, and it felt heavy. It felt hard and it felt confusing. But after the fact, like you said, Courtney, I feel almost more relieved. Like I feel like I have an answer to something that I never have before, almost, or not an answer, but a different perspective and a way to give myself more grace. Rather than saying, give yourself grace today, you're not feeling well. It's like, no, now I kind of understand where it's coming from. I have a better idea, or more so I can listen to my body a little bit better and not so much freak out from the feelings that I'm feeling, but I can be like, okay, take a breath, pause for a second, shake your body out if you need it, reach out to a friend, talk it out, whatever that is that helps you. It's not always you. It's your mind. It's your nervous system. It doesn't feel safe.
Yeah.
It's
And
it's telling you.
sounds like you're doing a lot of self-reflection. And I think a lot of self-reflection comes with these big aha moments or ego moments of realizing that you are human and realizing that, maybe it's something that I did or something that happened to me that I'm starting to understand a little bit more. And a lot of what she talks about in that podcast is healing your inner child. And, it sounds to me like in those moments, you're learning how to heal your inner child. And like you said, you take a breath, you shake it out, you kind of hold the hand of your inner child and walk yourself to that moment and say, it's okay. It happened. And doesn't mean that that's who you are. It's not your entire identity, right?
Exactly, exactly. And I think that's what we often do. I think we identify ourselves as this or that, but really we are just always, always growing. We're always changing. I'm not the same person I was a month ago, right? So
Right. You're really
no,
not. And a lot of the self-reflection is helping change that, right?
yeah,
And helping
yeah.
grow that side of you.
Absolutely. And although, again, guys, life can feel overwhelming. I mean, I have gotten really good with doing that gratitude, finding things to be grateful for within that moment, too. I mean, we've had friends, we've had family in town. My husband and we decided not to go hang out with friends, and we took a step back. I did some work while we watched the Super Bowl, and that felt fulfilling to me. I made some homemade chili. And to be honest with you, I can't even tell you the last time I cooked a full meal. Like, it's my husband does all of that. Especially because I come home, I go right to work. I'm like, so no, it felt good to just bring myself back and do those little things that I love. And when you do that, you remember those things that fill up your bucket, that bring you out of that overwhelming feeling. And sometimes you just have to say, let's do it to get started. Sometimes it's hard to get started, but just do.
You just have to slow down, take those deep breaths. And it's funny. I was listening to a song and I can't remember who it is, but he says, I said it again. And he said, I said it once and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast. And in that moment, I realized, well, that's why we're constantly working on how to slow it down, because it is moving so fast around you. And trying to be in the moment and take deep breaths is what it's all about.
Yeah. And if we're trying to move faster than life is already moving, I think I think that's where we gotta find the present a little bit more, right?
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. Well, guys, we loved sharing just a little bit of insight on what our last week or so has looked like. Some goal setting, lots of wedding and honeymoon planning, working through life itself. So thank you for listening here. We hope you subscribe below, follow us on Instagram, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.